Hello, this is Jim Donches, and we're here, and thank you for joining us for our periodic update on the COVID-19 situation here in Nashua. Of course, we have all made a lot of sacrifices by really working together. We're not visiting family and friends as often as we did before. We don't go to group events. We wear these masks, which of course can be very difficult at times. So we've all made a lot of sacrifices, but together we have really made a difference here in Nashua. When we started back in March, we were risking the possibility that our hospitals could be overwhelmed, that we would need actually an alternative care site where where people that couldn't fit into the hospitals could be cared for. And that is a possible, maybe a probable result if we had not taken the measures that we did here in New Hampshire and here in Nashua. And of course, you all know the measures that we've taken. We had closed City Hall and a number of other public buildings. Restaurants were closed for a time, and we, of course, exercised social distancing. And in addition, we began wearing masks, and the city passed an ordinance requiring the wearing of masks in public places. But again, back when we first started, we had many active cases going on at the same time of COVID-19, over 100 at a time. Now I can report to you that as of today in New Hampshire, we've had almost 7,300 cases, 7,300 almost in New Hampshire, but 91% of those have recovered. We've unfortunately suffered deaths in the state, around 400. Each person who dies, of course, affects a family. There's a very big sense of loss. The death by COVID-19 is a difficult one because usually relatives cannot visit, spouse, kids, parents cannot visit the patient in the hospital because of the danger of spreading the virus. So it is a very difficult disease. But I can report to you now that Nashua has had a cumulative total of 838 cases. But right this second, only 8 active cases. We're down to 8 active cases. In other words, 8 people who have COVID-19 who haven't yet recovered. Now, our public health department has been doing a great job, and our public health nurses, Bobby Bagley, Kim Bernard, and others, have been doing a great job in working with every patient who tests positive and then determining who that patient has been in contact with, reaching out to those contacts and counseling them to quarantine and to get tested. And this is a very effective technique in preventing further spread of the virus. So right now we have only 8 active cases, but our public health department has determined that there are 79 contacts that those 8 people, those 8 patients, had in the period of time before and after they tested positive. So our public health department is working with those 79 people. As I mentioned, certainly the COVID-19 virus has resulted in the deaths of people here in New Hampshire, and in Nashua, 41 people have died. Now, no one has died for 6 or 8 weeks here in Nashua, and that's of course good news, but still we have to extend our condolences to the 41 families who have suffered a very serious loss as a result of the COVID-19, the loss of a loved one, the loss of a family member, and we know that is a very, very hard tragedy to go through. Now, in order to keep the number of cases down here in Nashua, we have to continue to exercise caution because we've seen what can happen in other states. States like Florida, Arizona, they closed down things for a brief period of time, and then before they really had the virus under control, they opened up. And we saw in Florida, Arizona, and in a number of southern states, a huge spike in the number of cases. Now, we don't want that to happen here. these states, the number of cases grew so rapidly that at a time we thought that New York was the epicenter of COVID-19 in the United States, and that how could it ever get worse than New York? But when we look at how prevalent, how common the COVID-19 virus is in various states, New York has a lower prevalence, lower number of cases per 1,000 people than a number of these states that have emerged as problem spots. For example, Florida, more cases per 1,000 people than New York. Arizona, same thing. Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, probably the worst, the highest number in the country. So this is what we want to avoid here in New Hampshire. Now we're working with the state, Governor Sununu and Dr. Chan up at the state level to develop guidelines in a number of areas and to make sure that we do everything we can to contain the spread of the virus. I just wanted to show you a slide, which I believe will come up on the screen, showing you the red states. This just gives you a map of the raw number of cases. That those red cases, there's more than 100,000. So this doesn't quite get into the prevalence that I was talking about, but it does show you that all the southern states, even though many of those states are not that big, have a lot of cases. So again, this is the kind of thing we want to avoid. We want to keep our friends, our family, our neighbors, community members, we want to all be safe. And before I leave the issue, the COVID-19 situation, I wanted to make sure to urge everyone to continue to wear masks. We are following the science. We're talking with our public health department, with medical experts, our Board of Health. All confirm that with the wearing of masks protects people on both people who encounter each other and who have masks on. It prevents someone who may have COVID-19 but doesn't know it from spreading it to someone else. And if a person wearing a mask encounters someone who is a positive case, it helps protect that person from contracting the virus. So please continue to wear your mask. As inconvenient as it is, as difficult as it is, we know this is definitely having an effect here in Nashua. Now we're going to continue to run testing clinics. Public Health runs a free testing clinic every Tuesday from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. over at the Elm Street Garage. You need to, though, to make an appointment so that there's not a big rush at any one time. You can make an appointment by going to the website www.nashuanh.gov COVID-19, or you can call 589-3456. Either way, you can make an appointment. Now, I wanted to also share with you an important update regarding the elections we have coming up. Now, behind me, I'm here in the chamber, the so-called aldermanic chamber. Behind me, and I don't know if you can see them, we have about almost 10 people working, processing absentee ballots. So we're encouraging people, especially if you feel at all nervous about going into a polling place on Election Day, we encourage people to vote by absentee. And of course, and the state has authorized absentee voting for anyone who doesn't want to go to the polls because of COVID-19. We have a state primary coming up on September 8th for anyone who wants to vote in the Democratic or the Republican primary. And of course, we have the general election, the national election for president and all the other offices coming up on Tuesday, November 3rd. Now, again, we are encouraging people to vote absentee. So far, in this election, for the primary coming up next Tuesday, we have around 5,000 people have requested absentee ballots. Now, to show you how much this has grown compared to previous years, in previous years in a state primary like this one, typically we get about 600 requests for absentee ballots. This time, 5,000. And we've already gotten 5,000 or more requests for the general election coming up in November. The process that the state has developed to confirm an absentee ballot is very laborious. There are many steps. Every step that is taken with respect to each single ballot gets recorded into a database, a website up at the State Secretary of State's office in Concord. So our employees, our workers have to go into the state website and enter new data at least 4 times during the process that an absentee ballot is moved through the various steps. Accepting the request, sending out the ballot, accepting the ballot, and then and all of the work associated with that. So I encourage you again to please request an absentee ballot. Now, if you wish to register to vote, the date to register at the city clerk's office or remotely, the deadline before September 8th has already passed. But you can register at the polls by going to the poll, your polling place, one of the 9 here in Nashua, on Election Day. So you can register at the polls. We call that same-day registration. But once the primary is over, that's September 8th, so beginning on September 9th, you will again be able to register through the Nashua City Clerk. You can either contact the city clerk by email or by phone in order to set up an appointment, and we're doing it by appointment to make sure we encourage and enforce social distancing. So you can request the registration by email, by fax, by telephone, or you can drop a note off in the box behind City Hall. You can also request absentee ballots in the same fashion. The City Clerk's phone number for arranging to register to vote, if you want to contact them by phone, is 589-3010, and you should select option 5 when you get to the menu, the phone menu, or you can email cityclerkdept@nashuanh.gov. Again, you can use this contact information to either try to register or to request an absentee ballot for either of the elections. And I'll give you some of that information again. The phone number is 589-3010. Select option 5. The fax number is 589-3029. And the email address is cityclerkdept@nashuanh.gov. You can also obtain more information by going to the Secretary of State's website, which is sos.nh.gov and then a /. Finally, I thought I would update you a little bit on the city census. Right now we are we're looking for people, the U.S. Census is asking for people to go on to the census website and record your household census information. I did it a long time ago along with my wife. It is very, very easy. It takes like 2 minutes, no problem. This will enter you in the census, and no one will then have to visit your house. The census is very important to Nashua and to cities and towns across the United States because federal dollars for education, for health, for business assistance, and many other things are allocated in part based on population. So we want to make sure that every single person here in Nashua gets counted. And of course, we value every person. We want every person to count. And so we're hoping that you will go to the census, if you haven't done so already, and begin to and do the online, fill out the online form to make sure you are become counted in the census. Finally, We have a few items coming up. We have the Mayor's Book Club, virtual book club on September 30. We are reading The Woman's Hour by Elaine Weiss. This is about it's in honor of the 100th anniversary of the passing of the 19th Amendment, which granted women the right to vote. And The Women's Hour is about the final step in that process. 100 years ago, the state of Tennessee was the 36th and last necessary state for the ratification of the amendment, and it's about the very exciting political machinations which went on right at the end regarding the 19th Amendment, which resulted finally in the amendment being ratified in Tennessee, the 36th state, by a single vote in the state legislature. And you can find more information about the book club on the city website. So before I conclude, I just go back to thank you again for exercising the caution, for pitching in the way that we have. I'm very proud of the Nashua community for the way we've come together to protect all of our community members. Let's continue to exercise caution, wear our masks, exercise social distancing, and wash our hands, all of the other cautionary measures I'm sure you've heard. Also, we want everyone to vote. So please, if you want to vote absentee, please get an absentee ballot, submit a request. Also, or if you choose to go to the polls, make sure you show up for Election Day on the 3rd of November. We want to say, you should make a plan, decide how you're going to vote, what time, and how you're going to get there. That ensures that every single person who wants to vote will do so. And finally, if you have the time, if you haven't done so already, please go on to the U.S. Census website and record your household so that we know you and everyone else in our city is counted. So with that, again, I just want to thank you for joining us, and we will update you again in a couple of weeks with any new information that develops between now and then. So thank you very much.